Lingam is called Parasurama Lingam. It is a Bana Lingam that has come out of the river Narmada. Appeared here, and it was brought from Kasi along with the Avudayar or Yonipitam. So it has been installed here, and this Shiva Lingam ceremony for the Devi is also performed in this location in the rivulet after Ganga is installed. That's the Yonipitam, that is the Brahma Pitam, and that is the Pitam. The location where this Shiva Lingam is now was where we had a Homakundam in which well over 70 kilograms of chilies, red chilies, were offered to Mahapratyangara, and Mahapratyangara Homam was performed. It was donated to the temple by Sri Bhairava Sundara Gurukal that have appeared at the temple from time to time. All these Shiva Lingams are there, they receive regular worship.
Sri Matre Namaha. Namaskaram, everyone. Welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanatana Dharma's learning series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society, Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanyananda Nada, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Pidabadi of Sri Vidya Temple. Both Ayya and Amma Srimati Jnanamba have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of Devi worship and the rich tradition of Saiva Bhakti. For more than 40 years, Ayya and Amma have opened their hearts as they continue to share the wealth of knowledge and with all those who wish to share in the worship of Divine Mother and take up the sacred path of Devi Upasana. A few housekeeping reminders before we begin today's session. Please use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the content discussed. For those viewing our live stream, Our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/AYM-lectures. At this time, we will hand it over to Ayya.
Namaskaram. Om Hamsa Siva Soham Hamsaha Hasakafrem Hasakshamalavarayum Hasaum Sahakshamalavarayim Sahau Swarupana Hetave Swagurave Sri Annapurneshwari Amba Sameda Sri Lasri Amardhanandanada Saraswati Mahabhattaraka Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpajami Namaha. My humble pranams to my esteemed Guruji, Sri Lasri Amardhanandanada Saraswati of Devipuram, India. I prostrate before him and request that he sit on my open heart lotus and speak through me. Today, we are going to embark on a journey that is going to take us through quite a few adventures. Devi, first of all, cannot be separated from Shiva. You have to treat them as one unit, a coin with two sides. If you attempt to worship the Devi alone, you will land yourself in trouble and your psychic and spiritual self will be splintered and unbalanced. The same applies if you try to worship Shiva alone. They are to be worshipped as, like the Lalita Sahasranamam says, Sri Shiva Shakti Aikya Rupini Lalitambika. On one side, she is addressed as Sri Shiva, you who are Shiva. And the next one, the Vagdevata says, Shiva Shakti Aikya Rupini Lalitambika. Now, Shiva worship has been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Various stories have been spun, not based on the Agamas. There are 28 Shaiva Agamas. The word Agama means Shiva speaks and the Devi listens. Distortions, interpretations based on their own foreign experiences have clouded what we now know. It is always better if we go back to the Shaiva Agamas. I told you there are 28 of them, and learn from there what the forms are, why the forms have emanated, and each of these forms have been classified. Now, even there is controversy. Some classifications say there are 64 different versions or different emanations of Shiva. Panja Vimsati Murti Dhyanam. Pancha Vimsati means 25 different forms of Shiva have been recognized. Later on, if it is required, we'll go to the 64 forms, but 25 alone will suffice for our purpose here. Now, when I say 25 forms, a particular form of Shiva is worshipped. And if we go deeper in, we find that there are subsets. A particular form out of the 25 will have many variations, depending on who worshipped him when he was worshipped, and the reason behind the worship. Just for an example, if we take one of the forms which is quite familiar to most people, Dakshina Murthy. This Dakshina Murthy form has 9 variations. So you see, as we go deeper and deeper, you will find that it is an endless chain. Dakshina, right side or south side. There are 2 meanings. Dakshina means south. Dakshina also means right side of a person. Dakshina Amurti. In the Ardhanarishwara form, half Devi, half Shiva. The right half, if you subscribe to this Dakshina Amurti, means there's no form. Then immediately you know, by logical argument, the left side must have a form. Dakshina Amurti, Vama Devi. Vama, left side. Now, all of these forms, similarly, all these 25 forms that we have, depending on how the deity has interacted with devotees, with the rishis, with a group of devotees, with a king, cutting through the social layers, all the way from the topmost practicing rishi down to the person who does just menial work. All the way from Brahmanas to Sudras. He has interacted with everyone. Otherwise, he cannot be called a deity. Remember, the seven factors that a Murti has to satisfy before it can be recognized as a deity. So there are 25 forms of Shiva that have been worshipped from time immemorial. All the way from Kathmandu, Nepal, through going down south to Kanyakumari, and even below Kanyakumari to Sri Lanka, to the southern tip of Sri Lanka, where there was an ancient Shiva temple called Tondeshwaram. Any Shiva temple will end with the name Ishwaram, Kedishwaram, Koneshwaram, Munneshwaram, Rameshwaram, like that. So Shiva worship was not only prevalent in India. Archaeological discoveries in Indonesia, in Thailand, and on the western side, all the way to Saudi Arabia, Oman, those places, Shiva worship has been popular and it has been practiced. And in each place, depending on the geographical region, the language spoken in that area, the cultural differences between the east and the west and the north and the south and the center, worship has been calibrated and taught to the people so that they worship him. Now, these 25 forms are the ones that we recognize in most places. The first and foremost, let us start with a murti, a form that is called Lingodbhava Murti, Linga Udbhava Murti. Now, in typical fashion, the Lingodbhava Murti, Shiva emanating from the Shiva Lingam. And all the other forms, the 25 forms, will have a story behind it. The most accepted one in the south and in areas up to Belgaum in Karnataka, the story goes that a young person by the name of Markandeya was born. The boon that was given to him, that he would be brilliant, extraordinarily intelligent and learned, but his lifespan would be only 16 years. The father was given a choice by the Lord. Do you want number of sons who will live up to 100 years but will be mediocre? Or do you want one son who will be extraordinarily brilliant and probably stand this entire locum on its head with his brilliance and intelligence and his ability and his scholarship, but will only have 16 years. Most of you know that I am talking about Markandeya. And this child was born. The father chose the latter. He said, even if the child has only 16 years, if he is going to do a lot of good for this earth, then I'll rather have him. And the child was born in due course and brought up and exhibited all the characteristics that Lord Shiva had promised. And by the age of 16 was reached. Now, the child knew this. And when this episode of his life was coming to fruition, Yama, the Lord of Death, Yamaya Dandahastaya Dharmadipataye, he is righteous. He will not take a life unless it is time and unless the Dharma says so. And this episode, of course, there are various temples in the east and west and north and south that claim that this episode took place in a particular temple. The one that I am talking about is called Gata Ur. Eventually became known as Tirukadayur. It's a Tamil name. The word Gatam is strange to the Tamil language. They will always say Tirukadayur, Kadam. The word Kadam, see how strange this is. You go anywhere north of Bangalore, Kadam means that bangle that they wear. In Punjab, they wear a very thick thing. That's called a Kadam. See, the pronunciation changes the meaning. Anyway, Thiru, Gata, Ur. That Gatam is a pot. And where did this pot come from? When the Mandara Malai or Meru Malai, Meru Parvadam, was churned by the Asuras on one side, Devas on one side, with the Meru Parvadam in the center, and Vasuki, the snake, as the rope, they were churning the ocean of milk. One side, the other side. One side, the other side. The agony felt by the snake, Vasuki, it's supposed to have let go of its venom. And that is an entirely different story, but some things happened and many things started appearing from the depths of the ocean of milk. Kshira Sagaram. Kshiram, milk. Sagaram, ocean. Among other things like Kamadhenu, Dhanvantari, Mahalakshmi, Hala Visham, poison, all these things started to come up. And the devotees, that means the Devas and the Asuras, were deathly afraid of this poison, that it would kill them. So they ran this way and that way. That's another story. Swami is supposed to have taken that and swallowed it to protect his devotees, and it stopped at the throat. That is why after that he was called Neela Kandan. Neelam is blue, the one with the blue colored throat. Now, the pot of Amardam that came, Ghatamardam, is supposed to have surfaced in this temple that is called Tirukadayur. See, many of these stories are interconnected. When I say interconnected, the story of the Lingodbhava Murthy, at a later time, it will be connected with something else, another form of Swami, Kala Samhara Murthy. See, there are so many different episodes in the Puranas, and it is difficult to extract exactly the story that will apply to this individual Murthy. Anyway, when the Devas got a hold of the pot of Amardam, they, in their eagerness to participate or partake of the Amardam, forgot to worship Ganapati. And in this temple, the Ganapati is there. You know, you go to any part of India, he's a lovable, very affectionate deity. When you look at him, you feel like looking at him over and over again. And this communication between him and you, just like when we talked about the yantras, if you focus on the Devi over and over again, day in, day out, hour after the hour, and chanting her name and connecting with the form, although she has no form, Nirgunam, she has no attributes, nothing. Similarly, Shiva has the same thing. Saguna Brahmam, Nirguna Brahmam. Saguna Brahmam is something that has form, that you can understand by applying your sense organs. We are all not rishis to be in that state of pure consciousness all the time. Some of you may be, I don't know. I am not. Anyway, Ganapati, this lovable deity, is also very mischievous. What he did in this temple when they brought the Ghatam, Amrita Ghatam, he quietly extended his trunk, took the Ghatam and hid it behind him. And the Devas were now terrified. They were running up and down, trying to find out where that Ghatam of Amardam went. And what happens? Our friend Narada appears. And they say, what did we do wrong? And he says, you forgot Ganapati. So they worshipped him. Now, in Tamil, this particular Ganapati in that temple is called Kallar, means thief. Because he stole the Ghatam of Amardam and kept it behind him, he is called Kallar, Kalla Vinayar. So you go there and worship him. And it is said that Markandeya was sitting in that Amritakadeshwara temple and performing puja to that Shiva Lingam, because he knew his time was up and that any time Yama, the god of death, would appear, throw his noose around him and take him away to Yamapattanam. And lo and behold, Yama appeared. And using his noose, he threw the Yamapasam, the noose, and tied him. And he was beginning to pull him. Markandeya, the 16-year-old youngster, hugged the Shiva Lingam and cried out to his father, Shiva, protect me. And at that instant, Shiva is supposed to have come out of that lingam. Linga Udpavam. Born from the lingam, born of the lingam. And he kicked Yama and struck him with a trident, and Yama was dead. So the Murti in Tirukadayur is called Kala Samhara Murti, one who destroyed and defeated Yama. In fact, if you go to that temple, you will find the Shiva Lingam is there. I'll tell you some interesting things about the Shiva Lingam also. The Utsava Murti in that temple is to the, now if you are looking at the deity in front of you, Shiva Lingam is in front of you like this. To your left as you are entering, to your left side is the Utsava Murti, easily about 3.5 feet tall. And the base is kept covered with a kavacham. Something like a shield is there. When the appropriate time comes, the pujari, the priest, will remove that kavacham and you can see Yama fallen flat on his back and Swami's foot and the Trisulama on him. So after this, Swami started to do the Samhara Kramam, because if Yama cannot do his duty, the earth will be overpopulated, especially the young ones belonging to this generation, this connected generation, remember? With those little infernal things in your hand. Imagine, if you think your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, go back 15, 16 generations, that they should all not die. They should be there all the time. Can you imagine what will happen after 100 years or 50 years? You will be walking on bodies filled in every village, town and city, and piled one on top of the other, all of them alive, all of them having the same functions that you and I have, physical functions. Can you imagine the stench? So Samharam is an essential part of creation. He takes the life because of compassion for the ones that are living, for the ones that have been just born. Now, in this temple, the deity, the Devi deity in this temple is Abhirama Valli, which we have been talking about in another forum. Abhirami is Rajarajeswari, Kamakshi, Lalita Parameshwari in standing pose. And incidentally, you must take note of these little snippets that come out at these times. There is a famous deity in Thiruvanekkaval, in the town, in the city of Trichy. The Swami there is called Jambugeshwarar. Jambu, Jamun, And the jamun in this temple is the Sthala Vriksham. That is the tree that belongs to that temple. And interestingly, it is there to this day. The present generation that is born in the United States and have no idea of what this is, these stories sometimes may feel strange to you. Jambu has a particular color. Jamun is naval palam. Jambu is something that is shaped like a little pear. And it is pink in color. That is the common variety. But in this temple, behind the shrine, a rishi was performing tapas and he became completely mummified right where he was. And from his kapalam, the jambu tree grew. And lo and behold, even to this day, those jambus are white color. Something that you will not see anywhere. I have been very fortunate. At one time, when I went to this jambu tree, when I went to this temple, it was fruit, the season of the fruit was there. And because of the person that I went with, who was also known as the avatar or the advent of the Devi, Akhilandeshwari, they gave 5 or 6 of these jambu fruits to her. And one of them I got. So these are things that I consider these things as special blessings. Now, in this jambu tree, which is called a Sthala Vriksham, that jambu tree is connected to the name of the deity Jambugeshwaram, Jambugeshwarar. And that is one of the Panchabhuta Lingams. It is, that place is Apaha, water. Some seasons, the Shiva Lingam is immersed in water. You can't go anywhere near it. For periods as long as 4 months, it will be underwater. Now, similarly, in Tirukadayur, there used to be a gentleman and his wife. They are both here in Rochester. They decided that they would perform my 60th birthday, Nakshatram, in that temple, which is famous for this. That is their main business, quote unquote. Sashti Aptabhurti is a 60th birthday, where they will install 114 kalasams, Nadi Devatas, Giri Devatas, right? All the Nakshatra Devatas, Navagraha Devatas, all the Rishis, the Rishi Patnis, all of them. So there will be all about 113 to 14 kalasams. And the previous day they will perform something called Dravya Homam. Dravyam, absolutely rare herbs and spices that are associated with the 27 constellations. They are taken, collected. There is an area between Pondicherry and Chennai. I'm not very familiar with other states, so please forgive me. In this area, it's a jungle. There are jungles there. If you go in there, all these can be collected. And they are collected and dried. And these Dravya Homams are used as, Dravyams are used as Homam Ahutis. And the next day, pujas will go on to all these deities in the kalasams. Then they will be taken in procession around the temple. And all 113, 14 kalasams will be poured over your head. Can you imagine? The whole Abhishekam process will take at least 2 hours minimum. And while your puja is going on, there will be 25 others or 30 others, depending on how many of them are booked in various parts of the temple. Same puja will be going on. It will not only be Sashtiyapta Purti, 70th birthday, Bhima Radha Shanti, or 80th Sadabhishekam will be going on. Various groups, there are priests who are there. This is their main job and main source of income. They will continue to do this Abhishekam. Now this is Dravya Homam. You can see the arrangement, and the Homam, the Ahutis are kept in little containers. Now, while they were doing Abhishekam, it so happened that because of the influence of this couple who had taken us, they were quite well known there. I don't mind sharing their name. The lady is called Jambukeshwari. She was named after Jambukeshwaram. And the gentleman was Singaravelu. They are the ones who very kindly took us there and made all the arrangements, elaborate arrangements, and got this Abhishekam done. And when they were there, we were seated there. When the Dravya Homam was going on, in India, they are not used to hearing the Homa mantras and other mantras being chanted by ordinary people who are come there. Normally, they are expected to come there, keep their mouth shut, listen, and whatever they hear, they just hear and go. There's no participation. You only become a spectator. There were easily about 25-30 people who had come with me from Rochester and Toronto. And when they were chanting Mahaganapati Homam, everybody, mantra, everybody was chanting, and they were looking around to see who is this. So as a result, we were given a place where we could sit in front and do the Abhishekam, watch the Abhishekam taking place for Shiva. When they poured the milk over the lingam, I could clearly see a figure of a person in the lingam. I'm sure it is visible to this day. And I looked at it and told one of the people there, and they told Sri Shangaravelu, and he had enough influence there. He talked to them, and they poured a couple more pots of milk so that we could see it. For me, that is an example of Linga Utpava Murti, he who emanated from the Lingam. God knows what Markandeya really had experienced in that. But this Lingotpava Murti has a special place in the Shivalayam. The Shivalayam, the sanctum sanctorium, is called Garbhagraham. Garbhagraham. Translate and see what this is. It's the womb of the mother. And the Shiva Lingam in there is the life form. So in traditional temples, by design, the Garbhagraham is pitch black. You can't see anything. There is no electricity. The only time you will have a glimpse of what is there is when the Pujari hoists a Harati and shows it. And you can see the Shiva Lingam. Brief. That's also psychological. They maintain the sanctity and the divinity to the common people by doing this. So this is the Garbhagraham. Now, the outer wall of the Shiva Lingam, of the Garbhagraham, you are standing as a devotee and looking at the Lingam. On each side, there are two guards. They are Shivaganas. One is called Vijaya, the other one is called Jaya. And the Jaya Vijaya, one will have one finger like this. The other one will have 5 fingers like this. That is to say, what all of these, whatever that you see, is only one. Now, it has 3 outer walls. The outer walls are called Goshtam. The Shiva Lingam, by the way, the spout or spigot must face either the north or the east or the west. It cannot face the southwest or south. So in every Shivalayam, you will find that it is pointing to a particular direction. Now, as you walk around the Shiva temple, the Garbhagraham, when you come to the south wall, there is a deity sitting there and looking at you. That Goshtam is called Dakshina Goshtam and the Murti is Dakshina Murti. Then you proceed to walk behind. Behind the Shiva Lingam on the outside is the Lingodbhava Murti. If we can, later, let me finish this. Then when you walk on the other side, there is Brahma and Durga on either side of the spigot. Gomukam on both sides. Now, in some Shivalayams, I have seen that Gomukam, that entrance spigot that is there, or the gargoyle form, is made in the form of a Nandi. And the water is designed in such a way that the water is coming and flowing out of his mouth. So when they do Abhishekam to Shiva Lingam, it comes down and it pours out. And you take a little bit of it and then. And in the original designs of all the Shivalayams, this Tirtham, the sacred waters that are offered, is taken straight to the temple tank. And it contains all the mantras. If they have done puja with a Gatam, Abhishekam, Rudram, Namakam, Chamakam, Purusha Suktam, Sri Suktam, Ratri Suktam, Meda Suktam, Saraswati Suktam, Go Suktam, Bhu Suktam, all of these Vedic mantras, the energy is inside that water. And when it collects in the temple tank, old days tradition was you come to the temple, you walk into the tank and take 3 dips. And with the wet clothes, you get up and go. There are many stories like this to devotees who have come and bathed in the tank and gone inside and experienced miracles. However, if we can go to slides that show the Lingodbhava Murti in the back, invariably this Shiva Lingam is sculpted. Therefore, the Shiva Lingam falls into the category as a Kriya Lingam. Kanchipuram Kailasanatha temple, the Lingodbhava Murti, you will find he is splitting the Shiva Lingam and coming out. If you look at the corners, you will find the Shiva Lingam being split. And invariably, on top you will find a sculpture of a swan. And down below you will find the sculpture of a boar. The story of Shivaratri, which is approaching, is based on this, the pillar of light that appeared between Brahma and Vishnu, who were competing with each other as to who was great. Brahma said, I am the one who creates, so I am the one who is greater. Mahavishnu said, I am the one who protects whatever that you have created, so I am greater. And lo and behold, a pillar of light appeared before them, and one was asked to seek the end of this pillar of light. Both of them tried. Vishnu bowed down and Brahma went up, and the story you know. That opening in the lingam, for people who do practice Sri Vidya, the shape of that has a meaning. However, that cannot be described or discussed in this particular forum. The Lingodbhava Murti is the first one that we are going to, and invariably in every Shiva temple, in the south, in the north, east or west, on the Koshtam, on the Varuna Koshtam, that is, if the deity is facing east, on the western Koshtam, you will find this Murti. Can we show some more examples of this, please? I think it is, we'll stop here at this moment for this one. And if you can ask the questions that have come. Keep the slides rolling for a second. Yeah.
Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya Namaha.
Yeah, one question is, you talked about Abhirami and Akhilandeshwari, two different temples. They are both standing forms of Lalita. How are they different? Do they have different yantras, for instance?
Akhilandeshwari and Abhirami are the two deities that have the distinction of having a Sri Chakra Tadankam. None of the others have it. Other than Lalita, of course. Yes, they have different yantras. Now, somebody keeps asking me, why is the Matangi yantra different from the Shyamala yantra? In our temple, we have examples of Varahi. There are 2 or 3 different versions of it. So in each area, in each location, the rishis who focused on the particular deities experienced these yantras and draw them and gave them. They are not different. The energy is the same. Now, if you look at this on the left-hand side, it's Abhirama Valli. And if you look at her ears, she is wearing Sri Chakra Tadangam. And on the right side is Akhilandeshwari. She is also wearing Sri Chakra Tatangam. In the case of Akhilandeshwari, she was very fierce. And Adi Shankaracharya wanted to reduce the fierceness. So he installed a Ganapati exactly at her eye level, right in front of her. And the moment she saw this lovable Ganapati, the Ugram, the ferociousness left her, and she became maternal. And these are the 2 deities that have the distinction of having Sri Chakra Tarangams. Yes, they have separate yantras, each of them.
Yeah, this question is about the ghatam of Amritam that you talked about. Is that, the question is it still to be found in that temple somewhere, or is this metaphorical?
Is it? Is it to be found in that temple? The Ghatam of Amardam. If you find it, let me know. There must be some fact to this, because a legend does not just begin by itself. And there are so many temples. Every other temple could have had the same legend. But here, because something must have happened. And by the way, when they were pouring the milk on the Shiva Lingam, some of the people saw a ghatam. Some of the people saw outlines of a pot. I saw outlines of Markandeya in there. So one does not know. Amrita Ghateshwarar, that ghatam of Amardam, became the Shiva Lingam. What other place is there that you know where a kumbham or a ghatam has become a Shiva Lingam? Kumbheshwarar and Mangalambika in Kumbhakonam. Okay. Next question.
Why is Durga found outside Shiva Sannidhi as a Goshtamurti?
As a Goshtamurti, why is Durga there? Because she is the protective deity. And you know, on one side, Brahma is there. He is the creatrix. So he is creating. And the other side, Durga is there to protect the devotees who have come to see and gone. That is her job. And to eliminate all the obstacles that will prevent a devotee from reaching Sayujyam, Siva Sayujyam. Okay? That's why she is there.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 different stories. One is of Markandeya, the other is of Shivaratri, and both are connected to the Lingodbhava Murti. So it seems like this Murti has 2 different meanings. One is Shiva emanated from the Murti in the case of Markandeya, and Shiva appeared as the Lingam in the case of Shivaratri, right?
Yes.
Why are the 2 legends combined? I think that is the question.
Because one of the locations where the stories emanated, the Shivaratri story emanated in the area of Tiruvannamalai. If you examine and if you read archaeological and geological reports of that mountain, you will find that there is a preponderance of sulfates on that mountain, which should tell you that at some time immemorial, that was a volcano. Agni, that is the Agni Kshetram. So it must have been a volcano at one time. And the pillar of light appeared, not the Shiva Lingam. A pillar of light appeared. If you can show in the slides, there is a picture of Tiruvannamala mountain with a cloud during sunset where you clearly see the Shiva Lingam. If you have the slide, can you please find it and show it? So that story is located in Tiruvannamala. This Markandeya story is located in Thirukadayur, which is an entirely different Shiva temple.
Yeah, those are the questions we got from today's session. We have a couple of questions from the previous session.
Okay.
One was about Abhishekam. What is the correct way to pour the Abhisheka Jalam? Should it flow from your fingers or should it be poured directly onto the Murti?
It should not, I repeat, it should not touch your fingers. When you pour the Abhishekam must be poured directly from the pot or ghatam onto the deity, onto the lingam. Imagine, however much careful you are, you have 10 fingers and there is a tiny space between your fingernails and your skin. And that is a hotbed of germs. You don't want to contaminate whatever that you are pouring on to the Shiva Lingam. That is why either you pour it directly on it or you pour it through a Tarapatram. Sahasra Tarapatram with thousands of holes in it, and it will go like, it is called a divine shower. It will go like a shower on top. So you do not pour onto your fingers and then onto the thing. Even in temples, I have watched. Next time you go to the temples, watch how the priests do it. Some of them have lost it. They don't know how to do the thing. They have just taken a little bit of training somewhere and they have started temples. And the reason is purely monetary. They don't take care of these details. Next.
If you are watching the Abhishekam and someone else is performing the Abhishekam, do you receive the same benefits as doing it yourself?
With Abhishekam and with Punya Nadis, that means with auspicious rivers and other water courses, it says Darshanat. If you have darshan of somebody performing Abhishekam, Banat, if you drink some of that water inside, Prokshanat, if you take a little bit of it and sprinkle it on yourself, same benefit, no difference.
Maybe this last question we can take, yeah. The question is very broad, yeah. So it is saying some puja vidhanams are very simple, other vidhanams are very complicated and time consuming, and then you have many vidhanams in between. Is there a difference in the benefits you get, and how do you pick one among all these choices?
The benefits will come to you when you focus on that, when your attention is not diverted in between the time that you are performing the puja and getting up and going. If your focus, your attention span is 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, and you want to do a thorough job, a bang up job, then an elaborate puja vidhanam is for you. This is the greatness of our faith. If you want a 15-minute puja, there is a vidhanam for that. If you want a 20-second puja, there is a puja vidhanam for that. If you want a 16-hour puja, There are puja vidhanams for that. So you have to know the capacity of your ability to focus. When you have the ability to focus for an extended period of time or a shortened period of time, choose something that will suit you at that time. There is no compulsion that you have to do a 16-hour puja to receive the same benefit. My Paramaguru would prepare the puja, prepare to perform the puja for 1.5 to 2 hours, and it will take him 20 seconds to finish the puja. The concentration and the benefit are the same. So you have to choose whatever that you can. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we will stop here today.
Okay, we will probably see you next week, next Friday. Thank you very much. Namaskaram.
Thank you, Ayya, for sharing your knowledge about the various forms of the Shiva Lingams. The knowledge you have shared is a true gift to experience, and we are excited to learn more about the various forms in the upcoming sessions. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's session. At this time, we will hand it over to Vyasana from Ashtanga Yoga Mandir to begin our yoga session.
Greetings and pranams to Haranaya and all the members and the devotees of the Sri Vidya Temple and of Ashtanga Yoga Mandir, and all those who are viewing this through the live stream. Today, we will do a practice of asanas, which has a great impact on the brain region. So you will see in the yoga practices, there are specific asanas which is related and which is focused directly on the brain region. Brain, breath, management. At the same time, that practice cannot be done by everyone because of the intrinsic natures and the precautions which has to be taken. So, in the tradition of yoga, lot of emphasis was given for the practice where the toe and the foot strengthening takes place. If you start doing toes and foot and balancing and strengthening, it has a lot of direct impact on the brain region. So this specific asana, those who are comfortable, you can do this practice, which is also one of the best practices for concentration. This is also one of the practices which is used as reducing the excess heat in your skull region. When you have excess heat in the skull region, there is a possibility of your root of the hair gets splitted. And that is visible in the outside because of the excess heat. So this practice helps you in that. And this asana is called as the Uttolana Kaga Asana. So we will all practice this asana. Don't force yourself. So basically, you will just straighten yourself and come into Vajrasana in a very gentle manner. And then you slowly keep your hands in the most supportive manner, like this. And then slowly start to come up like this. So your heel is away from the floor. It's only balancing the toes. And in the first practice, you keep your hands in this stage, on sideways. And you be there for a specific count. And then you will try to see whether you have any shiveriness in your body. So you will come into this practice, which most of us can do it. So once you are in the 27 counts, then you take one hand and relax yourself. So still you have the balance. If not, you can always do with the practice with the support of the wall, like this, slightly. So whenever you want, you will feel that you will have the wall support. Then you chain the hand into this position. So 2 days of practice, you will be able to come into this position. And then lift yourself up. So your leg was like this. So from here, you will lift it up in this position. And then you will come into this position. So you can be there for 27 counts. And then after that, you will keep your hands on the top of the head. Those who are comfortable, you can close your eyes or you can look at the tip of your nose. As I told you before, this will give you an indication of the toes and the strengthening. And you will see the shiveringness of the toes region based on which toe that the legs has an impact. You will be able to identify which part of the brain region needs to be strengthened. And then from there, you stretch your hands completely up. You lift it up completely. And then bring your hands down back. Come into this position. Come into this position. And then you come into this position. And then slowly you will come here. Relax yourself. Because you have given some little bit of a pressure. You can just insert the fingers and then slowly start rotating it just to ensure that you give a balancing. Same way, you will do this practice of on the other side. If you are in Padmasana, you will do Padmasana. If you are in Sukhasana, you will do Sukhasana. If not, you can even do it in this position. So it's called as a Uttolana Kaga Asana. So this practice, physically if you take, creates a strengthening in your ankle region and the knee region and also the toes. Toes are very important aspects in the yoga practices where you start strengthening, like how we do in the mantras and in the pranayamas, the importance of mudras. The same important practice is given also to the toe region to strengthen it, because the strengthening of the 10 toes will have a greater impact on the neuro-balancing of your brain region. So thank you very much for all of you all. So those who like, you can just practice. You can also teach children, which will give them enhancement. So if they can stay for a minute or a 2 or a 3, enhances and enriches the memory capacity of an individual. So once again, my pranams to Haranaya and all the members and the wonderful devotees of the Sri Vidya Temple and the members of the Ashtanga Yoga Mandir. Thank you. We'll complete the sessions with the 3 Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you and Vanakkam to all.